Let's get straight into it. It's Brian here. So if your roller wheels aren't taped, you're going to want to add tape here and over the cable so that when you turn the unit over, the roller wheels don't fall out. And we've got some important pre-flight checks. You want to make sure your power supply is set to the correct voltage. So for me, that's 220 volts. You can see in from the edge of the power supply, there's a little switch and the sticker tells you which side it should be. Mine was correct. Then you want to check the dip switches and make sure that both of them are switched to on. The switch itself might be a different color from red. At least one other user's was blue, but mine was red. So you want to make sure that all the pitch rollers are in place if it wasn't taped. At least one customer had a unit rolling around. It was hidden under the tab where the cable is. Here's the list of the required tools. You might want to pause. And then this is all the loose fixings you'll need to perform the steps in this video. So first we want to turn over the base unit so that the bottom is facing up. And then we're going to plug the design leg into each side. And then with M6x10 CAP HEAD screws and a 5mm hex key, you can do them up from here. And I definitely suggest doing these ones up before you do the next set. That's all 4 of those done. Now we have M6x20 COUNTERSUNK with a 4mm hex key. You might have to bend the design legs around so that the screws will line up, but once they're all screwed in place, everything holds well. Okay, so now we want to remove the tape. Make sure there's no torn bits left there. And you want to extend the cable outside of the base unit. You're going to open the pitch locking wheels. And then carefully lift the pitch platform into place and lower it down, making sure that it engages with the gear. I did a small rock side to side just to make sure that the gears are turning properly. You might hear a bit of what sounds like scraping. It's most likely the flat cable. So now we want to close these front locking wheels, and you'll see here that it didn't push all the way in. And those wheels are on a little bit of an angle still. So what I found is if I hold that button in and then rock it back and forth, it went all the way in properly and locked in. Now the rear locking wheels, in my case these ones went straight on no problem, but you may need to do the rocking motion as well. Now we're going to add the roll platform. We want to make sure that the geared section is toward the back of the pitch platform, and we want to insert from the side that doesn't have a locking block in place. Alignment here is so that the geared section is in line with where the gear is, and then it should slide in fairly easily. Now we want the locking block, stop block, and M4x24. That should already be pre-assembled anyway, so 7mm socket and a 3mm hex. Alright, let's assemble the footrest. We've got M5x12 countersunk with a 3mm hex key. Do these side plates up. Now we want to put the foot plate in place. Then we're M6x16 CAP HEAD, washer and nut. And you need an M10 socket and the M5 hex. Now we want to set the angle of the foot plate. So you can see here you can adjust. And then we M6x20 countersunk. And there's a retaining nut built into those side brackets. So you just do those up. Done. Alright, now we want to put the footrest into the seat platform. We want to undo these M6x20 CAP heads, open the door, slide the footrest into place. I found I need to sit on something to make it easier to push that plate down. Do that up and then I just make sure the legs are straight. Give it a cinch. And we're done. Now we want to rest the seat platform onto the roll platform. And if you have a Pro unit, you want to feed the cables through these cable slots. I don't know why my cable for the smart plug is so long. Guess that means I could move the box anywhere around the unit I want. Alright, the little silver round wheel, you want the flat section at the top. Get that to line up and lock in. Done. Now we have M6x16 CAP heads with a 5mm hex. Do these 3 screws up. From here we move down to the roll platform with M6x20, 8 of those and a 4mm hex key. I had to actually bend the roll platform towards the back of the unit just to get that frontmost screw in place, but all the rest went in easily. Okay, here's the counterweight retaining clamp. We'll just put that in place now. You would add weights there once you have peripherals on, just to balance the unit and take stress off the motors. Now, if you back the Kickstarter, you've probably got a side rail. Have V-slot nuts with an M6x8 countersunk head. Mine were locked on to the rail itself, so I've undone them and put them onto the plate. Just lightly threaded, and then you can slide the plate onto the V-slot rail. You may want to put this plate on after you've put the rail in place, because as you'll see in a second, you may want to swap it to the other side, like facing the other way. Okay, so these are the slots where you can connect the side rail. Oh, hi Chucky. So it can go like this, or on the other side. And if you want the side rail closer to the seat, you can spin the legs around that way and then flip the plate over and they will be in closer. M6x16 with a 5mm hex. These are a bit tricky to line up. You'll see I drop it here. Kind of hurt myself, but eventually got it. And once you have these in place, you could adjust the right angled brackets. I wasn't able to get this back one parallel. If I had have loosened it, I could have got it parallel and then tightened up all of the screws and everything would have been okay. All right, the seat slide with the arrow pointing forward. Normally you would have a seat on this to do this step, but I don't have a seat yet. So you line that up, push it down, push towards the back a little bit. And we have an M6x60 countersunk with a 4mm hex key. And you just do that screw up until it pushes against the bent over front plate on the slide to lock it in place. Locked. All right, we're going to assemble the central holder. So we'll undo that tightening screw. Make sure the hole is lined up with the slotted bottom side. Move that back up. The plastic piece around the bottom part, I had to chamfer that with a pair of scissors just to get that to fit in. This large plate bottom bracket is kind of optional. I think it might make the whole desk assembly a little bit more stable. So we've got M5x12 CAP HEAD with washers and nuts and a 4mm hex. I think that's an 8mm socket from memory. Might be 7 though. Actually, it would be 8. Now you want to make sure that the folded down side of the desk is in the orientation that you prefer. I've put it so that the adjusting knob that we undid would be facing towards me when I'm on the seat, and the fold down also facing towards me. And these are M5x12 countersunk with M5 washer and nut with a 3mm hex. And again, 8mm socket, I believe. Okay, now we want to sit the central holder onto the footrest holes. We have the central holder locking plate, goes underneath. And we have the M6x30 locking knob that goes through the hole of that plate, and you just got to line it up and tighten that up. You can open and adjust the angle and then close again. So I'm adding a 5 kilo weight here so that the unit stays up, just to get access to this pitch platform back opening. So first you want to fish out the Ethernet connecting block. That might be quite a ways across, but I believe now it's easier to get to, and you want to connect the number 2 Ethernet cable from the flat cable. We've got the 4-pin connector of the flat cable, goes to the left side of the PCB in the white socket, or white connector, and then the number 1 Ethernet cable goes into the leftmost Ethernet port. Then we have the 6-pin connector plugging into the 6-pin connector. Now we want to feed this block back in behind everything. A little bit tricky for me, just try to be careful with it. I just want to note here that the flat cable feeds in the bottom hole and goes up through the bottom hole into the top section. Now we have the flat cable clamp. Now my unit came with 5mm holes, but they need to be 6mm, so I had to drill those out. Should be right if you're getting your unit after I got mine. And then we have M6x20 with a 3mm hex key. And you want to do these up firmly, making sure that you're not crushing cables too much, but you want to stop that cable from moving upwards and downwards. Now we have the pitch platform back panel. Several users don't have these holes lining up. I actually modified mine to make it. So it's M4x8 with a 2.5mm hex key. So if you can't get yours to line up, what I thought of is this drawing pad I had a very similar style of finish on its black cover. You could cut a piece of that plastic and then adhere it over the topmost hole. It would look a lot neater. So now we're going to connect the cables. This is again only for Pro units. So we have the Ethernet cable going into the hub. The other cable on that side goes into the seat LEDs, assuming you have a seat with LEDs. This is the AC to the smart plug box, again with my excessively long cable for some reason. Okay, done. All right, the last thing to show is we have the emergency stop. It's a magnetic switch, so if you pull that off, the unit should power down. I should be getting the rest of my platforms and seats soon. See you again soon. Thanks for watching.